There you go.
Okay. Hello and welcome to Futurefest, Apprentices of the Roundtable. Welcome everybody, and especially welcome to our Roundtable participants this afternoon. At Dorset Council, we have well over 100 apprentices in a wide number of roles, including business administration, accountancy, customer service, leadership and management, and our countryside rangers. And we're going to hear a little bit more about that service, I hope, from one of our panelists later on. Many of our apprentices at Dorset Council go on to become permanent employees, one of whom I know we have with us today as well. Now, joining a large organisation can be daunting at the best of times. It's a bit like your first day in a new school. You're not quite sure where everything is, who's who, and essential things like where's the loo and where'd you go to get a cup of coffee and where'd you go to eat your lunch. But it's even more daunting during a global pandemic, such as we're in the midst of now, when ways of working have really changed quite dramatically. So let's hear now from our panel about who they are, what they do, and why they think apprenticeships are important in today's world. So I'm going to hand over to, in no particular order, the first person that would like to speak. If you'd just like to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your role and why you think that apprenticeships are important. Okay, over to you.
Will I go first?
Yes, Graham.
My name is Graham Stanley. I'm the Senior Ranger for the Dorset Countryside and Green Space Service. My particular area is North Dorset. We're based out of Blandford Forum. Our role is predominantly looking after nature reserves, the public rights of way network, our country parks, and our highway verges and roundabouts. But I also have the role of kind of lead for our apprenticeship scheme. We've got 14 apprentices currently across spread across the county, and I think that they are invaluable to our work, really, because they not only provide us with extra hands to help out with our workload, but also we very much take the approach of growing our own replacement staff. And I'm pleased to say that out of our current full-time members of staff, we've got 18 either ex or current apprentices enrolled as members of County Council full-time staff.
That's great. Thank you very much, Graham. And it's wonderful to hear that you've got 18 ex-apprentices who are now on the full-time payroll. So there's nothing like growing your own, is there? Yeah, thank you. Okay, don't be shy.
Oh.
Go on, Amy.
Oh, yeah, okay. My name's Amy Churchill. I'm an apprentice for business admin in the core learning and development team, which is a part of HR. So what I do is help do the administration for various different training workshops and for kind of the online mandatory learning. And I kind of get involved in a lot of different bits, really, all to do with kind of training and new starters, everything really. I meet a lot of people, which is really lovely. So for me, the main value of apprenticeships really is the fact that it's an opportunity to kind of get a qualification without necessarily going down the purely academic route. So if you're not kind of naturally inclined to that, which I know I wasn't really, it's almost like a different pathway that you can get to the same place, which, you know, it might take longer, or you might have to do a lot of different things, but you don't get kind of that disadvantage that I think a lot of people assume that is a part of kind of apprenticeships, or if you don't go and get a degree, you might be slightly disadvantaged. But I think it's almost a way of getting to that same point and kind of without that bit. So yeah, no, definitely I think it's valuable to have a lot of apprentices in an organisation, because then you have, you know, the more different experiences you have, the more people who haven't gone through that exact same route of getting to, you know, getting into a particular job role. then obviously you have a more kind of diverse range of perspectives and opinions, and that can only lead to kind of a broader range of ideas and experiences. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Amy. Thank you very much. And your point about apprentices bringing increased diversity into the organisation is a really important one. We know that diverse organisations, generally speaking, perform much better than those with that narrower recruitment pool. So thank you very much for that. And who'd like to go now?
Well, it's me left. So
yes, thank you.
So good afternoon. I'm Matthew Piles. I am the Corporate Director for Economic Growth and Infrastructure. So I'm responsible for planning highways and transport. So there's 1,000 people who work in my work family. And what was really nice to hear is I started like Amy in business support as an apprentice. And why is invaluable for me is very simple. The apprentices of the future for Dorset Council. We are all apprentices every day of our working life. I'm still an apprentice. People look at me and say, how can you say that? It's because I learned something different day. And it's quite right. Not everybody is at the same speed academically. Not everybody wants to go through the university route. To be honest, at 16, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do in life. And Dorset County Council at the time gave me a chance. So without that chance, I would never have turned out to be who I am now. Some people might think that that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I am very honoured, and it's a privilege of being an apprentice of a local authority.
That's wonderful, Matthew. Matthew, how many years have you worked in local government?
That's a rude question to ask, isn't it? How many years have I worked in local? It's now it's 37 years. I started. Yeah, 37 years will be. End of 1984 started, so yeah, 36, 37 years.
Amazing.
Dorset County Council, Weymouth and Portland Council, and now Dorset Council. So yeah, it's been a long and varied career.
Yes, so a full career in local government, starting as an apprentice. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you. And I'll just briefly introduce myself. I'm Amanda Grant, and I work for Dorset Council as the Senior Learning and Development Consultant, and one of the areas for which I'm responsible is our apprenticeship programme. I'm now going to hand you over to Sam McLaren. Some of you might know him as is it Digi Sam on Twitter?
Digi McLaren is my Twitter.
Digi McLaren, quite a prolific tweeter. So Sam's now got some questions to ask our apprentices of the Roundtable. So over to you, Sam.
Hi, I'm Sam McLaren. I work in the digital team at Dorset Council. I started as an apprenticeship as an apprentice in IT about 4 years ago. So 37 beats that, but I moved across to lots of different roles. So to kind of get this roundtable going, I've got some questions to go through. So I'll start with you, Matthew. You said about the kind of 37 years and how you started, or 36, 37, and how you started as an apprentice. Have you seen any major changes since then, or what's changed?
I think people don't realise how valuable the apprenticeship scheme is, if I'm allowed to say that out loud. And actually, what I see is people who started with me or later is throughout local authorities, not just in Dorset, but across the country. And there's a cohort of people who are friends and colleagues and part of the working family that I work with. Changes, I think there's a bigger opportunity now of what you can do and what sort of careers you can go into. Probably when I started in '84, apprentices were not looked in the same light as they are now. And that's not being disrespectful, it was the culture and it was the age. I started washing the cars, the fleet cars at Dorset County Council. Probably not many people can remember that we used to have them, and delivering papers to senior managers. Not a problem. I would like to think the apprentices have a more range of skills and opportunities now. And the reason why I'm saying that, Graham is the classic example that the opportunities he gives for youngsters, particularly in countryside service, I'm very proud of. So that's what I'd say.
Yeah, I would say even in since I did my IT apprentice, there's been changes around more upskilling and the way that they're approached. So it's always constantly changing and evolving, getting more people inputting into it. Okay. So I had to make a similar decision about this when I started, and I was choosing between whether I should be going to uni and doing degrees and what I want to do, or if I should be an apprentice and what do I want to be an apprentice in. So Amy, I know you covered this at the start, but what were your thoughts initially around kind of uni versus apprenticeship, and what were your reasonings behind?
Yeah, so I have never been one of those people who kind of knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I think the trouble I had with doing with the decision to kind of go to uni was I had an issue with kind of justifying the immense kind of commitment of a degree, like financially and in kind of just committing to one particular topic of study, when I really had no idea what I would do with it at the other side. So in picking an apprenticeship, especially one like business admin, which is obviously like very, very versatile, and it can kind of, it's useful for really most jobs in this kind of sector. I just thought that would be more kind of sensible for where I was kind of at that point of not really knowing what I wanted to do, and of not wanting to narrow down my options too much. Whereas, you know, if I went to university, I honestly don't know. Like, I might have done a degree, but I honestly don't know what I would have used it for, or if I had used it, it probably would have been something that's only kind of tangentially like related to it. Otherwise, you know. So I kind of felt that might be a bit of a waste. And I know a lot of people, you know, don't see it that way, but that was, I don't know if that's a prejudice or a personal bias, but yeah, no, I think I was more happy kind of going after a qualification that I could see exactly how it would be useful to what I kind of saw myself doing in the future. Yeah,
I agree as well. And there's things that you don't even know exist when you're making those decisions that you might know exist now. Like I didn't know service design was even a thing until I started doing my apprenticeship at the council, and then that's what I've grown to love doing. So it's having those options and making sure you kind of progress as you go through is really important. So this is a general, anyone wants to answer question, but Graham, you might have some good points on this. We said around at the start about how they're important, but also, Matthew, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, so sorry, just before you go on, I think that's probably one of the biggest strengths of the apprenticeship scheme, is that, I don't know about you, when I was younger, I didn't know what I wanted to do for the future. And I think that was the dilemma about whether to go into further education. But what local authorities give you is such a breadth of experiences of what we do. People don't really understand that lawyers, ICT, countryside, highway engineers, you know, social workers, you know, support within the business, and it's such a breadth and depth. And I think that's what then will help us as an organisation, because what will happen, and Amy probably will find this in her career at some point, because I started in business admin, I met an engineer who inspired me to learn civil engineering, and local government gave that opportunity. So just wanted to add that, because I think that's the strength of the apprenticeship scheme. You can be the best that you can be in what you want to be when you discover what you want to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. Okay, so we said about what's important and why you think apprentice. Oh, sorry, Helen, did you want to go over a question?
Yeah, no question. I was just going to agree with Matthew, actually, that I've gone through lots of jobs, and I'm at a good age now, and I'm about to embark on the social work degree apprenticeship with the OU, and I feel really lucky that I've been offered the opportunity by Dorset Council to be able to do it, because I probably wouldn't have financially supported myself to do it, but the council is confident and has put their trust in me to do it. So yeah, I'm getting an opportunity to do something that I really want to do.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that with us, Helen. Thank you very much.
So this is open to anyone. What we said about what's in, why you think they're important, but what is the value of either being an apprentice or having apprenticeships in your team or area? What do you think the value is? Have you got any examples or any stories?
I've got an example, because actually I'm very fortunate that Amy is part of the core learning and development team, and Amy joined us very shortly after her 18th birthday, and what Amy has brought is a really fresh pair of eyes and looking at the way we do things, and it's been, as a manager for me, it's been an incredibly valuable experience to watch Amy grow in confidence. So starting from somebody who was very quiet and unsure of speaking up, actually to really blossom into an incredibly valued and valuable member of the team, because Amy brings with her a fresh way of looking at things and makes suggestions to do things that we wouldn't necessarily have thought of. So I'd say it's the creativity and the potential for innovation that that Amy as an apprentice has brought to our team, certainly.
Thank you, Amanda. I just wanted to kind of jump on kind of from the other perspective of what you said there. As you mentioned, I kind of did struggle a little bit kind of at the start, the first kind of couple of months. I really was so kind of unsure on everything that I was doing that I didn't really know what questions to ask, because everything was a question to me, and I didn't really know how to pick out, you know, people were constantly asking me, you know, do you understand this? And I would just kind of say like, yes, because I didn't know which bits I understood and which bits were just like so wildly tied up in the confusion of starting a new job, which was so completely different to anything I'd done before. So I just want to kind of say that for me, the value in kind of, although those first few weeks and months were really uncomfortable, and obviously working in a team that kind of helped to lessen that was really helpful as well. But I think the value for me in kind of getting through that bit was that I know I would have had to have done that eventually. Even if I had done a degree, I would have eventually had to move into kind of a workplace outside of an academic kind of strictly like a university kind of setting. So I think having that experience earlier on kind of helped me get over it faster. I think if I just kind of put it off, because if I had done a degree, it would have just been kind of putting off things and kind of procrastinating on that decision. I think in doing it earlier, it probably helped me to kind of come to terms with things and develop myself faster than I would have if I had left it another 3 or 4 years.
From my perspective, and probably Graham has in more of a frontline services, the apprentices bring a fresh approach of what we're trying to do and actually ask us the questions of, why do you do it that way? And could we do it in a better way? The thing for me that makes me smile is post COVID-19, there will be a different way that we have to work. And actually apprentices to me are actually the future of how we're going to work and what services we may provide, and will challenge the way that we think in a traditional way. So it's that diversity of the workforce, which is the big thing. And also what brought it home to me is that some of the apprentices that we give opportunities to don't have the best start in life. And actually what makes me proud is that when we see young people who have those challenges come through and be apprentices and go on to have a further career, I think that's invaluable, and it's very difficult to quantify what that means, but apprenticeships give people a chance. And I know I joked at the beginning, without the chance that someone gave me as an apprentice, I would never have had the career I have now. So
definitely. And with our line of work, it's obviously very practical, very practically based, and so it does tend to attract the kind of younger person who is not as academically gifted, you could say. But how we teach and what we teach just allows them to blossom, really, for want of a better word, and get all the qualifications, get the skills, get the knowledge, and get the confidence to go on and get jobs and further their career. Yeah, it's incredibly simple, really.
Yeah, I've got first-hand experience of the value of that countryside ranger apprenticeship, Graham. One of my daughters actually was one of your apprentice rangers a few years ago, and picking up on what Matthew was saying, she didn't have any formal qualifications. She didn't have a very good experience at school. But what doing that apprenticeship did was really ignited a passion in working in open spaces outside. And now she works as a landscape gardener and absolutely loves every minute of it. She lives in a flat that has a kind of a roof, a flat roof terrace, and it's like walking out into a tropical jungle. And that all stemmed from when she worked as an apprentice ranger. So personally, I'd like to, you know, I'm very grateful to you, and I'm also very grateful to our organisation for offering those opportunities to young people.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Helen, did you want to jump in that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Amanda, it's not just for young people either. Dorset Council are offering apprenticeships to anybody of any age. And, you know, when I left school, I left school at 17. I didn't have an A-level, but I've been able to get onto a degree course without even having A-levels. Because back when I left school, it wasn't the given thing that you went to university. You know, you went out to work. Most people went out to work. So to be given this opportunity now, and I think with the social work degree, one of the advantage with the apprenticeship is that you're doing the job, and at the end of it, you can really hit the ground running. You know, and the Dorset Council get the benefit of that, having somebody who's able to just, you know, start off straight away, really, as opposed to going to university, where you do your degree and you might do a couple placements, but you haven't got the experience. But with the apprenticeship, you're doing the job and getting the experience, the work experience, and getting into the thick of it. Yeah,
you're absolutely right, Helen. And with that experience, and Amy touched on it a moment ago, actually, as you get experience, so it increases your confidence and a whole raft of life skills that will take you anywhere you want to go, I would say. And your point about apprenticeships aren't just for young people is a very important point to make, because we have apprentices of all ages across Dorset Council, some of whom have been existing employees, probably such as yourself, who, you know, want the opportunity to progress, want the opportunity to gain a national qualification, however, are unable to fund themselves to do it. So the apprenticeship route is a great way of upskilling the workforce.
Yeah, and I think for me, that's the challenge that we need to give to our managers in Dorset Council about find the apprentices of the future. Every step, and I've done that within my service as, you know, my heads of service and service manager. I've said to them, look, we have apprentices here at all levels that we need to help, because they are the future leaders of the organisation, and I think we need to do some more, Amanda, as we move.
Absolutely do.
And, you know, if we're allowed to ask things on this, Sam, because I know it's virtual world and this is virtual, you know, we need people in Dorset Council to help us with the apprenticeships of the future. And it's probably one of my main passions, if I'm allowed to say that. I'm getting on in life a bit. I'm over 50 now, but actually looking back at my career, if you're allowed to say that, that's the bit that I've really enjoyed seeing as apprentices coming up through the ranks and enjoying what they do. Amy, if you want a change of scene and you have a fancy coming over to look at Amanda's. I'm sure
that's not allowed, surely, coaching staff.
Yes, it is. You can do it all the time. Me and Amanda know each other far too well. But that's one of the things that I think we need just to do a bit more is give people that opportunity to see the other sides of the organisation. So social work, Helen, engineering, countryside, because actually that's what makes me smile when an apprentice says, I've found where I want to have a career.
Yeah.
I mean, I would, if you'd have turned around to me at 17, when I was 17, and said you're going to end up being a social worker one day, I would say, you've got to be joking, you know. But to get to, like, over the last 7 years, having worked for the council, to really find that this is really what I want to do, and then, you know, be able to do it is I'm quite excited about it. So.
Yeah. And rightly so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I know quite a few of you have covered this. It's about the apprentice learning, but also learning from the apprentices as well. And all the teams and areas that have these apprentices in, they're going to be getting people asking, why are we doing it this way, or bringing up these new ideas and bright ideas. And as they grow up and get further in the organisation, that's going to start trickling down to other areas as well. So that's why it's really important.
Yeah, I don't feel, and I've always believed this, I don't feel that university is the route that everybody wants to take. And I think to learn and get a qualification by doing it through the apprenticeship is the best way. Yeah.
Amy, do you want to go?
Yeah, it was just something that Helen, you mentioned there. I think there is a lot of pressure when you're kind of 16, 17, 18 to know exactly what you want to do with your life and kind of have it all planned out. And a lot of those decisions you are kind of expected, or it feels like you're expected to make in like about 6 months worth of time. And for most people, that's just not something that they can do. And it just puts like an unreal amount of stress on it. So I think the fact that the apprenticeships are an option where you can go, and especially in a large organisation like the council where there are so many different job roles and different areas that you can kind of work in, that once you're in the organisation you can kind of move around. And that's with a degree you might not have, or if you go straight into university you might not have that same option at such kind of an early age, and you might unintentionally kind of lock yourself into something, or even put the pressure on yourself to think like, I've chosen this now, I have to stick with it, even if it's not something that you really want to stick with. And I think with the apprenticeship there's less pressure to do that, which is something that I've really found beneficial.
Yeah, I was going to say, I agree with you there, Amy. I'm sure there's many teenagers that go off to university to do the social work degree that actually when they come out and go and start doing the job think actually this isn't for them. My niece is 19 and she's just doing a master's in social work, and I say this, that and the other, and I think, I hope you aren't going into this with your eyes closed, because it is quite a tough environment, and you're going to see a lot of things that are going to be quite difficult to take in. And I'm just hoping at the end of it, when she gets into the big wide world actually doing the job, she's going to enjoy it. But a lot of, like you say, Amy, a lot of people go to university and pick a particular field, and at the end of it they decide that's not really what they want, and it's a shame then.
Can I just add one more thing, Sam, before you go on?
Yeah.
With my economic growth hat on, what you would expect as a director of economic growth, the big thing for me is about skills and learning. We don't underestimate, we're an employer of 4,500 people. Probably one of the biggest employers in Dorset for young people in Dorset. And I don't think you're asking me what's changed. I'm not sure still that young individuals know what Dorset Council can do for them and their career. So I think one of our challenges for the future, particularly post-COVID, is how do we promote Dorset Council as the employer of choice to get the best of the best into the organisation. And I think that's our challenge, isn't it, Amanda?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Matthew. And one of the things that that my team are doing, we're working with others, we'll be actually promoting a virtual careers fair focusing on careers at Dorset Council, and that'll be coming up in January in the new year as part of that campaign to promote career opportunities at the council.
Because there are so many opportunities once you've got your foot in the door to progress, isn't there?
Yeah.
Like Amy, you'll go far because once you've got your foot in the door,
she's come into planning. She doesn't know it yet.
I didn't realise this was going to be a poaching exercise.
No, Helen, you're welcome as well.
What, do you need a social worker?
Yes, I do, in many, many wonderful ways.
Yeah.
But that's the point. But also, as a large organisation, we network, and perhaps one day, Amy, for example, might say, "Oh, I've mind finding out what about that," and we're lucky we can do that. That's the point. Sorry, Sam.
It is. Yeah.
That's all right. We're out of questions now. So if anyone has any kind of final points or anything, because we've covered quite a lot of different areas and ground.
For me, it's simple. Apprenticeships allow people to be the best that they can be. and they give absolutely, Hannah, they give the opportunity of whether they want to do a degree, whether they want to do a frontline service, but more of a NVQ qualification, which it allows them to progress their career and see what they would like to be in the future. And one of the things that people say to me, are you sad if apprentices leave the organisation? Nope. No, I'm happy. Being is that, like Amanda said, we probably give them someone a chance to actually contribute to our economy and Dorset. So, you know, you can't criticise that. I mean, Graham's got the same. With highways, we lose our apprenticeships. They go, but they go a more roundful, educated, hopefully a better person, and they know what they want for their career. So, yeah, I cannot say highly enough about apprenticeships. Amanda knows that. That's probably why she asked me to do this.
Yes.
I certainly view very much our role is, as I said before, kind of growing our own staff and people who want to look after the countryside and the public rights of way and whatever, but also helping out all of those other conservation charities like the RSPB, Dorset Wildlife Trust, with growing good staff for them as well. Because obviously with the number that we do have of 10, 12, 14 apprentices every year, we can't find a position for all of them. So hopefully we can pass good quality, well-educated, well-qualified people onto these other organisations for the betterment of our wonderful countryside resource. Natural England.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, that actually it's the wider impact of sending out qualified people who are qualified at the end of an apprentice to actually benefit the wider community. And as a public sector body, that's really what we're all about. So I think that's a really great point there. Thank you, Graham. Any other closing remarks before Sam completes the recording?
No, thank you for this opportunity, Amanda. It's been uplifting.
Yeah, thank you. So I'd like to thank all of our roundtable apprentices, ex-apprentices, managers of apprentices, but also, I think, without doubt, great advocates of apprentices. And if anybody who's watching the recording wants to learn more, you can email us at apprenticeships@dorsetcouncil.gov.uk. I'll say that one more time, apprenticeships@dorsetcouncil.gov.uk. And you can also learn a little bit more about our apprenticeship offer on the Dorset Council website. And if you're an employee of Dorset Council, you can also find out more about the work on our intranet. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.